The tropics have been very active over the last weekend. We had extended coverage. Folks have been making their way out to the southeastern coast, all tracking Tropical Storm Imelda, finally getting that I name. Took a long time, though.
Yeah, right. And it's taken its time doing everything, just about. Even its trot as it moves closer to the Bahamas, over portions of the southern Bahamas. Two systems we're going to break down this morning, Haley. And also we have Michael Estime live out there off the coast, and we're going to check in with them in the next hour. Meantime, let's break down Imelda. Oh, boy, this took forever. It moved over portions of the Caribbean, right over Hispaniola, a lot of mountains. It was just encountering tough terrain. Finally, now moving into the terrain that is there, flatter. Warmer waters. And now we're actually seeing some of the radar returns, especially off the radar coming off of Miami. So, yes, you're looking at the big storm right here, Imelda, cloud cover here. You're like, wait, where's the rain? Well, it's there, but the radar is picking it up closer to the coast. It is moving to the north at 8 miles per hour, slowly moving. Wind's still at 45 miles per hour right now.
Yeah, not quite Hurricane Imelda, but that is still the eventual name that we'll get. So we will get that upgrade within the next couple of days. We'll see that strengthening. Likely Hurricane Imelda within the next 24 hours, so by Tuesday. Tropical storm warning still out for the Bahamas, but they actually dropped the tropical storm watches for Florida, and that's just a nod to the subtle eastward shift we have of the center and the overall track, which is really helpful for the impacts we could see across the United States.
No kidding. We're watching closely because we are going to have the impacts for sure. You're talking about some big swells, rip currents at times, some rain, and a lot of the rain. We also have a stalled front and a non-tropical area of low pressure off the coast. So a lot to watch off the southeast coast. Meantime, when we take a look at this, Bermuda, watching closely yet again. You are in the center of the cone, and remember the storm can go anywhere within this cone. The cone itself is kind of where do we expect the center to go, or is forecast to go, but it could go anywhere within that. At that point, Category 1 hurricane closer to Bermuda, so they're watching there as well. Haley, look at the storms right now. I'm starting to see some bubbling up over on the western side, over the open waters. Southern side, you still have some drier air and, of course, land interaction, but that all changes in the days ahead, especially as it moves north here.
Yeah, we've got some warmer waters that it's going to be encountering already in the warm waters, but now not dealing with the land interaction. The one hindrance to Imelda in the immediate is the fact that we've had this dip in the jet stream and creating some hostile winds in and around this area. But as it finally starts to make that sharp turn to the right, the wind profile starts to calm down a little bit, and it has a better room for additional strengthening. So for Bermuda, right now we're calling for a higher end Category 1, potentially a Category 2. It really just kind of depends on how it decides to interact with the warm waters, but certainly conducive for tropical development, at least in the 80s. That's what a storm would need. And you'll carry that out through the waters from the Atlantic coast into Bermuda.
Yeah, consensus when you put all the models together, take the middle part of it, you can see a lot of these continue to take it over closer to Bermuda, expected to be perhaps very close to Category 3 in the open waters. But again, we've got to watch some of these impacts across the lower 48, especially with some of the rain, the rip currents, all of that. People still go to the beaches this time of year, this part of the country.
Well, especially when you think about Florida. Florida getting in on some heavy periods of rain along the coast, and high surf, like you mentioned, Craig, is likely not only from the Sunshine State, but all the way into the Carolinas as well. You're looking live at the east coast of Florida right now, where there's a high surf and wind advisory in effect until tomorrow. They're predicting that they could see sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour and peak gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour. So not quite tropical storm force. You need 45 mile per hour wind speeds in order to get tropical storm force gusts, which is why they dropped the tropical storm watches for the east coast of Florida. But it doesn't mean they're not going to be feeling the impacts, Craig. Already seeing the influence of that tropical moisture getting pushed up against the I-95 corridor. The bulk of that deep convection, though, just offshore. But that's why the track and the uncertainty that we had, now very high certainty in what's going to happen. But the small, subtle shifts west and east mean big differences in the amount of rain and wind that we could see for portions of the East Coast.
And how big this storm gets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's relatively weak right now, and that is also playing into what's going on with this very, very slow-moving system. The rain will slow you down at times this morning as it gets moves up to the north. We're going to see some of those rainfall rates increase at times. Also, some windy conditions, especially closer to the coast. At first, coming in from the north, big waves with that, rip currents, and we've had a lot of beach erosion this season over the eastern coast of the lower 48, and I think we'll start to see that again, this one being so close here.
Yeah, definitely. What's really interesting about the Florida Peninsula is when you think about tropical impacts, it's typically the west coast of Florida.
Right.
Now, granted, we're not talking about a direct landfall by any means on the east coast, but it is interesting to really be focusing on this one region for the impacts. The west coast of Florida, you're not dealing with this at all. If anything, you'll see that high tide even be lessened as the waves are, or the wind rather, is being pulled off of shore. For St. Augustine, already gusting up to 14 miles per hour. The waves are going to be a big influence here. We're talking about 6 to 10-foot waves off right near the shore and 11 to 18-foot waves potentially offshore. So if you're talking about jumping in a boat and doing some fishing trips and stuff,
not a good time.
That's going to be something you want to cancel. Take whatever kind of motion sickness thing you can.
Right?
If you do plan on doing that, they're not necessarily advised in this moment. Overall, with the track of Imelda, that sharp turn to the right, Humberto, which is our Category 4 storm that's been on the board.
And it got to Cat 5 at one point, right? Over
Exactly.
the weekend, Saturday?
Yeah, just absolutely incredible. So that's eroding this ridge of high pressure and allowing for Imelda to take this sharp turn to the right.